This is Bleav in Buckeyes. I'm Brian Browning with All-American cornerback Chimdi Chekwa. We got a great show for you guys because it's draft week, man. I think the draft is up in I think it's in Green Bay this year. All you up there with the cheese head? I think so, man. I'm pretty sure it's in Green Bay.
There's not much. There's not much in Green Bay, but I guess.
but football.
Right.
Yeah, man. So it's a good week, right? It's a good week, right, Chuck?
Yeah, it's a good week. I'm excited for the guys, going into the draft. I feel like this group of players, and I feel like they've been playing in college for a minute, man. I feel like I really got to know a lot of these guys. Even Will Howard has only been at Ohio State for 1 year. It just kind of feels like he's been a Buckeye for a while. And speaking of Will Howard, I don't know if you got to see some of the Gruden interview.
I caught a couple things. Yeah,
I thought it was good, man. I thought it was good.
Like,
I like him, but overall, a great class. A lot of guys. Honestly, there's enough guys in this group that could potentially get drafted to either tie or break the record, right?
Yeah, I think so. I Bleav the record is currently with 14. I think it's held by Georgia. And we been bouncing around our head, like, okay, this guy this guy's going to get drafted, this guy might get drafted, and this guy's, kind of borderline there. But yeah, I mean, we just kind of looking at we're probably, I mean, this is knock on wood, it's the draft. Anything can happen. Knock on wood. This should be a fun one to watch. We got a lot of guys that's definitely gonna get drafted, but we might actually get the record. I mean, we could break it down though, just real quick though. You got one quarterback, we got two running backs, that's three, right? We got two O-linemen for sure. That's five. We got a receiver for sure. That gets you to six. And then we go on the defensive side. We got all four defensive linemen, all our starting four, most likely to get drafted. That gets you to 10. Cody Simon, 11. And then you start looking on the defensive back. You got Denzel. That's 12. Hancock at nickel. That's 13. And then Lathan Ransom at safety. That's definitely 14 right there.
14.
We should get that. I mean, I'll be very surprised if those 14 don't get drafted. But then up in the air, you got G. Scott Jr. Obviously, he had some injury troubles, but he tested really well. And then you also got Fry at the offensive tackle position, who tested really well as well. And then you know who we're forgetting about? We're forgetting about Seth. He most likely get drafted. So we should get the record, right? That's 16, 17 guys right there that's definitely in the mix to get it.
Oh yeah, I put money that we get the record there. Is the record 14 or is it 15?
I think the record's 14. I think it's 14. Yeah.
I will put money that we get for sure 14 guys drafted and possibly 15. I mean, that list of guys, all very productive college football players, and all guys who are projected to be drafted. I mean, you think about guys like G. Scott, who was a productive player who, maybe on the bubble or whether or not he might get drafted or not. Actually, as you mentioned, he tested well. I think he ran a pretty good 40. Fryer also tested pretty well, was a productive starter. I would see him as a late round draft pick. Could fall.
Yeah. Right. He's seen him improve a lot too in this game, which is fantastic. You think about drafting a guy that still, got things to work on and get better at. So,
but some of the other guys are locks, in my opinion. They're locks, and the draft is funny. There's no perfect science, right? A guy who's been a productive starter, who has the athleticism, who has the measurables, may not get drafted because guess what? There's a lot of other guys who have been productive starters. There's some guys who may not have played a lot of football, but test really well, so they project as high ceiling guys that teams want to get them in and see if they can coach them up and get them there. And they may go over a guy who's got a ton of film because it's like, well, a guy that has a ton of film, we already know his ceiling. We already know what he can reach for the most part. But this other guy, he's interesting, right? So sometimes, that especially in the late round, sometimes that comes into play. And, some of those other guys, you just get them in as a free agent and, because you feel like you already know what they can do, you give them some money or whatever and get them to come to your team. But I would bet that we get 15 guys whose names are called on draft day between those 3 days. And that's, I mean,
that's just impressive.
Yeah, that's impressive. That shows you what level of talent Ohio State had. And I'm excited about some of these guys. A guy like Jordan Hancock, I talk about him a lot. I feel like he's a guy who's underrated, but did a lot for Ohio State. Did a whole lot defensively. and then showed his athleticism at the pro day as well. So I'm rooting for guys like that to move up draft boards. Another guy I think who's underrated, and I think this year is going to show more so than others, is a guy like Ty Hamilton, right? He spent all these years plugging up gaps, taking on double teams, keeping linebackers clean. We celebrate guys like Cody Simon and Sonny Styles and others, but sometimes we fail to look at the guys like Ty Hamilton who are in front doing a lot of that dirty work. And I think he
I was gonna say this about Ty Hamilton. I don't know if you've seen him lately, but the guy he looks phenomenal, man. He's like all arms, super lean. I think he kind of weighed in at about 299 at the combine. Looks super strong, super athletic, and obviously, like it's the film matters, but the guy, he definitely looks the part. That's for sure.
Yeah, man, and he's just one of those guys. When you have a group that has so many talented guys, there's a few guys who just never really get celebrated as much. But as we look at this defensive line depth going into next year, it would feel good to have a guy like Ty Hamilton on the roster, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, kind of rounding up the spring. I think, we kind of talked about, obviously, last episode, a real true breakdown of the spring ball and what we saw, right? What went into how well the quarterbacks did, how well the offensive line looked, the number of guys on the offensive line. But it was one thing that we kind of left head scratching was the defense, but we say it could be scheme. But the thing that was really true to is like our defensive line, right? They really just didn't show much. They didn't, they wasn't very disruptive in that spring game setting. And then I guess Coach Day has spoke about it, like, hey, these guys need to step up, especially around the defensive tackle position where they are, they have the least amount of experience. And then after spring, he kind of say like, hey, we might need to get in this portal to kind of shore up our defensive line going into this 25 season. And that's something we want to kind of hit on because obviously this is college football. Guys are available. And some teams are doing really well at the portal and grabbing some guys. And it seems like our Buckeyes are maybe a little bit lacking at this point.
Yeah, Texas has 4 defensive linemen that they've gotten out of the transfer portal.
Oh, wow.
4 defensive linemen. That's a lot of D linemen. We talked about it. I just mentioned, like, hey, I don't, Mark Pantoni, Ryan Day, whatever type of tampering opportunity you have, go ahead and focus on that D line. But Texas, who, we played Texas last year. Mm-hmm. We saw the talent they have at D-line. I think they may have lost 2 or 3 guys to the draft. And they're looking to reload up front. And it's important for them. I mean, obviously it's important for everybody. But if you look at how they played Ohio State last year, their approach, we're going to rush 4, we're going to drop in coverage, and we're going to, expand the field. We're not going to let guys like Jeremiah Smith get deep, explosive passes over the top. And we're going to really rely on a rotation up front that could put a ton of pressure on the offense. It seems like they're sticking to that approach, right?
Yeah, sticking to that approach. Yeah, so, because looking at that, guys, in offensive line and defensive line, I mean, they was a big unit, right? I mean, I think we broke it down. If you go back and catch our show beforehand, like, the offensive line is okay, but they're really big guys that like really could establish a run against you. And the same thing with their defensive line. They just had a lot of big bodies. And those guys, and we played in the game, it kind of came out like a guy, a defensive tackle get pressure. You're like, okay, who is this guy? And then another one gets pressure. If you look at them, like, these guys are not average size human beings. They're big guys that, was able to win a one-on-one and get some pressure on the quarterback. And that's what kind of, had our offense a little bit off rhythm, kind of towards in the middle of the game, right? If you recall, first started off the game kind of hot, middle of the game we kind of sputtered down a little bit due to some of that pressure that their defensive line was able to get, especially in the middle, a lot of push with their defensive tackles. So yeah, that's definitely their approach. I mean, I know that they are. Obviously, you say they got 4 guys. They lost a few. They got 4 already. I Bleav Georgia, they already signed 3 defensive linemen out the portal as well. We know the trenches is huge for them as well, right?
So real quick, Texas, one of the guys that they signed is Hero Canoe. If I'm not saying, I think I'm saying his name right.
Yeah,
Hero Canoe.
Yep.
From Ohio State. So they took one of our defensive linemen. Let's highlight that. And then the other thing about it that's interesting is that it's reported that they're looking to host a visit For another defensive tackle,
Yep.
the guy who's available out of Syracuse.
Moran Watson. Yeah, defensive tackle out of Syracuse, who's a freshman All-American, coming off a freshman All-American year. So he's a good player, right? I mean, he obviously Syracuse wasn't the best defensively, and he had to be one of their shining lights because, looking at his numbers and him being a freshman All-American, he was able to get some things. So, yeah, he's also on Ohio State list as well, from what I'm hearing. So
how much of this,
right?
How much of this, all these transfer portal defensive linemen, how much of this is them stacking up because it's a need position? And how much of it is just making sure that Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, some of the teams, Notre Dame, some of the teams that are competing for national championships like they are, don't get these guys, man.
I mean, it's important. I'm like, you have to weigh it in, right? It's like, these guys, they want to win, right? It's you win with people. That's what it comes down to. You win with people, you win with players, right? So if the only thing you could do is get the guy off another guy's board, then you do it. You hear about it all the time about, I think Michigan got an off the line transfer. I forgot about what school. He's coming from a small school. And he said he basically called Ohio State, like, hey, I'm kind of interested. Got ghosted, right? Didn't reach out to him. He said he's committed to Michigan. All of a sudden, Ohio State is on his line, reaching out, like, hey, and that's a part of it. You hear about it all the time from, high school guys. Like, yeah, I didn't have much interest until I got this offer. Then once I got this offer, then these other schools kind of popped in and start, offering me and want to speak with me and, try to get me in for a visit. So it's a part of the game. And a lot of times,
it's a good point. It's a good point. Like if I was like mentoring a young corner, right, who has the talent and the tools to play at the Big Ten SEC level, but still didn't get the scholarships from the Ohio States, etc. I would tell them, if they were in the Midwest, I would tell them, look, go to Michigan's camp and go. If you want to go to Ohio State, and you're not getting, if they're not returning your phone calls, if they're not, giving you the attention when you go to their camp, see if you can get the Michigan offer. I mean, listen, like, see if you get the Michigan offer, because if you get the Michigan offer, I know they at least will identify who you are and maybe put you on the board. Because you got to think about it from Ohio State's standpoint. Like, we're trying to identify who we want, trying to identify who we can get. But we also are actively competing against this other team. And if there's a guy maybe in the Ohio area or nearby that's likely to go to the other place and perform at the level of guy that we're looking for, we definitely got to make sure that guy doesn't go there, right? You don't want another, what was the quarterback? Now I'm drawing a blank on the last championship winning quarterback at Ohio State. I mean, at Michigan. That JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, JJ.
You don't want another JJ. It was between McCarthy and McCord, right? And that Ohio State chose McCord, and McCarthy, who wanted to go to Ohio State, ended up going to Michigan, and he was able to get his get back at a few times actually, right?
Yeah.
So
man, next conversation, man.
Listen, we gotta keep it real. We gotta, you know what I'm saying? We gotta keep it real. But that defensive line thing is a real issue, I think. And the reason I say it's a real issue, not just because I'm watching it and seeing it, because every time Ryan Day goes into a press conference and asks him about defensive line, he recognizes that as an issue, right? So, listen, if the head coach says it in the press conference, then it's something to for sure pay attention to. And I do believe that Texas and Georgia, while you can never have too much talent on the defensive line, are also aware of kind of the jockeying for position and competition when it comes to competing with an Ohio State team. If we don't let them get these guys on the open market, then Texas, who goes head to head versus Ohio State, definitely benefits. So that for sure plays a factor.
Yeah, no, and I guess we don't want to be too hard. Ohio State did get a transfer defensive end out of Idaho, right? And to be frank, if it was one bright spot that you saw during the spring game, it was him. It was his play. He was able to he was active. He was able to make some plays kind of later in the game. He showed some ability, right? And then so far as the guys that's current, that's Max. I'm gonna butcher his last name. Lamanco out of no, that's not him. But anyway, Idaho, who's a defensive end, shows some promise. You got Bo Atkinson, who's out of North Carolina. He's I think he's about a 7-8 sack guy. He's in the portal as well. Maybe some buzz around there. There was a big buzz around David Stone. David Stone was a 5-star at Oklahoma, who I guess right when he hit the portal, everybody started. This is the guy Ohio State needs to be looking at. But he actually took his name out the portal. He's going to remain at Oklahoma. So, we got to figure it out. But, my belief is like, hey, man, these young guys need to step up. They on scholarship too, man. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's true. It's just with the portal there, it becomes a risk not actually going in there and getting the guy. Before there was no portal. Before you didn't have the guys, you just figured out everybody, coaches come together, we figure out what's our approach to defense this year. We got 2 guys that we love. We got some other guys that are serviceable. So how do we structure defense to make sure that we minimize our weakness, maximize our strengths? And I still think, and that's a good point there, because I still think there's an approach to doing that. Like say the portal ends up not being an option. Say Texas gets the guy from North Carolina, and then Georgia adds the other guy,
the guy from
and
Syracuse from Syracuse,
yeah. And then obviously the guy from Oklahoma decided to come back. They probably upped his NIL or something. Mm-hmm. So let's say that's the situation. Now Matt Patricia with Coach Johnson, with Coach Walton, with Matt Guerrieri, with James Laurinaitis, they have to figure out, okay, how do we lean on our strengths? Now, the defensive tackle is the middle of the defense, right? So, like, that type of weakness, you think about going to war and your front line is just completely like your wall. You got a wall up, but the wall got like a few hollow spots in the middle that they can just kick through.
It's no good.
However, you can structure defense to maximize your strengths, minimize your weakness. And what I'm thinking more so is leaning on guys like Jermaine Matthews, right? Dave Schneebenosin, as long as he's not holding, playing tighter coverage on the edges, and packing in with more blitzes, paying just more attention to those specific areas to support stopping the run, and also to support pass rush as well. So, I mean, there's things that can be done. So it's not the end of the world, but you would like to, if the big dogs are getting the top defensive lineman, you would like to at least match, or at least come close to matching that level of talent up front as well.
Yeah, that's for sure. You want to compete, right? And that's the name of the sport, man. But speaking of the transfer portal, obviously we're talking about what we could get out the portal, right? Yeah. But it's almost at this time of the year, right? Ohio State portal, I think it closes maybe in a couple of days here, this weekend on the 25th, 26th, something of that sort. But right now, none of our scholarship guys has entered the portal, which obviously, that's it's not common, especially in these days. I guess, what does that say about our culture, the culture that Coach Day has, that, the young guys, the older guys, everyone is feeling like a part of the team and they want to stick around and try to defend that national championship.
Yeah, I think it's huge to be able to keep kind of this nucleus of guys who commit to Ohio State, get developed by Ohio State, and are in key positions to be elite level players at Ohio State. One, it supports your future recruiting for other young kids to see, oh yeah, when you go to Ohio State, you get developed. There's an opportunity for you to be one of the 14, 15 guys getting drafted and going into the draft. And also that allows you to, create the culture that you want when you have guys there for multiple years. And you're the one developing. You think about kids, right? Like you get a kid at 12 and you teach them something over and over again, they kind of become the person you want them to be. Versus you get that kid at 17, right? A lot of who they are has already been kind of ingrained, and you gotta remold them. Being able to mold that team, I think, is important. And I think, it's funny because there was a tweet by a Colorado offensive lineman talking about
Yeah, Jordan Seaton. Yeah.
And nobody cares about the brotherhood.
Yeah.
Like,
No one cares. Everything is about I and we. So this is kind of funny though. So I gotta set it up a little bit here. So if you don't know, obviously this is the Ohio State Buckeye podcast, right? But we gotta talk about college football. So they had a center, Cash Cleveland. This guy's
Cleveland.
Cash, bro. Cash Cleveland. He's out of he went to IMG, so he's a high school teammate of Jordan Seaton, who's a 5-star offensive tackle, big time recruit for Colorado. Right. And he's a freshman All-American. So he's a walk-on, starts as a true freshman. Obviously he's an All-American. So, I didn't watch his film, but he must have did some things well. So now they're saying as a walk-on. So they say this is an article I read. When this situation took place, they say as a walk-on going to in spring, he went to the coaches and said, "Now it's gotta be more to it." But he basically said as a walk-on, he went in and said, "Hey, can I get on scholarship?" And they
gave him scholarship, right?
No, they said. I guess they didn't. They said they didn't give the guy the scholarship, man. He stopped going to spring practice and said he entered his name into the transfer portal. And this came up on my radar because with Ohio State, right? Jermaine Matthews, when Seaton tweeted, Jermaine Matthews jumped on that tweet like, "Hey, we don't have that problem around here around brotherhood and things like that." That's how the story even kind of got on my radar.
But we got 99 problems, but a transfer ain't one of them.
Yeah, that's not one of them. So it's just interesting. Like Deion drops a list of all these different players he needed and things of that nature. And obviously, I think we both like Deion. We support Colorado, as we do as from Buckeye fans. But it's fun. It's like, man, did you really just lose a guy because a starting center because you didn't put him on scholarship?
Because
and then your best guy's like brotherhood, and it's like you got to take care of your guys, right? I think that's what Coach Day. One thing he's trying to do, he's trying to take care of his guys.
That's and you hit it on the head because they takes care of it. Like even when they talked about the $20 million roster, and when you think about the $20 million roster that they were speaking of, it was guys like Emeka Egbuka, it was guys like Zach Sawyer, JTT, Denzel Burke, guys, Jordan Hancock, guys
Davion Henderson, right?
Yeah, who brought in by Ohio State, and had an option. Do I go to the NFL or do I stay for another year? And look, you can make a little bit of money in college and continue to chase your dreams and go win a national championship. That's different than the Colorado approach, right? Obviously, Colorado was, losing and they had to try to turn it around fast. But their approach is what? I'm going to get Louis bags out the transfer portal. I'm bringing in Louis. I'm going in the transfer portal. That's a much different. It's a much different culture. It's a much different culture. Yeah. Now, to Jordan Seaton's point, who said, sports is crazy now, can't even build a true brotherhood anymore, too much I and not enough me. Jordan Seaton wasn't a transfer portal guy. He was a young guy who chose Colorado over. He could have went to any school.
I'm sure he had a Ohio State right in there, right? Yeah.
And the funny thing about this, the interesting thing about it is his high school teammate, Cash, chose Colorado too, but as a walk-on, right? And you got to imagine Cash Cleveland, right? Cash Cleveland, he comes to Colorado, his high school teammate, nice cars, a lot of money, doing it. Cash got school loans. Grinds, works his way up, wins the starting position. Because a freshman All-American as a walk-on. First Colorado freshman All-American walk-on ever.
Yeah.
Goes in to renegotiate his contract and said, "Look, I just want my school paid for it." And they're like, "Nah, man, that's not enough.
We got to see what you can do, man. We got to see how you develop." Yeah.
So cash, there's for sure some cash, one, for him to pay for school, and then two, for him to actually make some money based on his current position. And I don't think this falls into the category of, this thing isn't a brotherhood, even though Colorado is mostly built by his transfer portal. So you're going to have guys in and out all the time. Like, it's not this for Jordan Seaton, who, I respect his decision to go to Colorado. I want to be a part of something. But he has to understand the environment that he is in is going to be a revolving door. I got to hear somewhere. So Deion Sanders has a list of what he's looking for. He kind of put this on the interview. He was talking about, after spring, we're looking to bring people out of the transfer portal. There's Deion's wish list. And shout out to Deion. I like Deion, but listen to how crazy this wish list is. He said he's looking for D tackle. Everybody's looking for D tackle. D tackle, linebacker, safety, 2 cornerbacks, wide receiver, 2 running backs, tight end, offensive guard, offensive tackle, 2 centers. He had a walk-on center who was a All-American. Now he's looking for 2 centers.
Yeah.
Listen, man.
But the thing about, I guess we got to put the whole thing around it though, because it's like you say, that's the culture there. So now imagine if you play that position for Colorado, right? Like we say, Coach Dave's been saying, like these D tackles need to step up. We don't got to a point like, well, if we could get a guy, we'll get a guy, right? So the defensive line is, they're feeling that, right? They got to feel that. They got to hear it. They got to feel it, right? Yeah. But now imagine if you're in Colorado and he lists 10 positions. They all to feel it. The whole team got to feel it. And so, so now you're thinking, if you're in that situation, do I need to get in the portal? You asked for 2 corners. Do I need to get in the portal? Even though I thought I was the starter? Do I need to go? Like, you open that door up for guys. And obviously, Deion does things differently. And like I said, once again, I think we both will say we support him. It's just a little funny where that's your situation where we're now here at Ohio State with Coach Dave, where it's looking like, okay, now you're the defending national champion. But, we already talking about how you did a great job at bringing. You became a national championship team because you did a great job at retaining the talent that you had in the door. And you're trying to build that, like trying to repeat. But hey, you young guys are going to go out there and show me something, right?
Yeah.
Now, once you don't show me something, we're paying attention, right? You didn't show me nothing, so now we might need to do something in one room. But other than that, we're gonna give you guys some opportunity to step up and play, and I think you gotta respect it.
Yeah, opportunity is a key. Opportunity is a key word, because what people don't understand is this football stuff is not a perfect science. Like there's not, the best guy is always going to touch the field. That is not the way things work. It's just like life. Situations, circumstances lead to opportunities. Those opportunities potentially give somebody a chance to take advantage of it. Sometimes an opportunity never actually opens up, and a guy who actually has a talent and ability never gets to actually see the field to take advantage of an opportunity. So if you're a young guy who is committed, who is improving, is getting better, hasn't reached his peak yet, is still getting better, and then every time you look up, this is a new guy coming in, and now you're getting less reps, and this guy who came from somewhere else is proving somewhere else because he got an opportunity somewhere else.
Yeah,
it's starting over you, and then you do it again another year, and another guy comes in who's proving somewhere else because he got the opportunity, and you still don't get that opportunity. It just creates a culture that is, to me, it really isn't necessarily sustainable. Like, you can win some years, and other years you're just not going to win because you're going to lose guys and have guys come in. You got to reward the guys that show you what they have, and not just reward them. There has to be that opportunity that if I do this, because I was the one who committed it, I signed on the dotted line and said I want to play for you, I want to be part of you. There's the opportunity that if I continue to perform, I'm going to be put in a position to get a reward. And that's what I do like about what Ohio State, being at the top of college football, having all the pressure consistently to win and all that stuff, still giving guys the opportunity to compete. From Devin Brown to Lincoln Kingholz, Julian saying nobody's penciled in. And even if somebody is penciled in, because sometimes a guy got to be penciled in sometimes. And sometimes you just see something. Yeah. But even if they're penciled in, it doesn't feel like it. And that gives you an opportunity to improve and just focus on getting better. And then if you do transfer after that, you transfer as a guy who's ready to go. So yeah, I think it's a contrast of cultures. I did kind of like Jordan. I did kind of like Matthews' tweet. Jermaine Matthews, I said Jordan. Yeah, I did kind of like Jermaine Matthews' tweet saying like, "Hey, we don't see that over here. like you chose to go there, but we don't experience that over here because once there's some truth to it,
right?
And then it's funny.
Yeah, right, man. That's funny, man. But some quick hits while we wrap up, man. Real quick, Oregon is shaking down. Coach locking for $400K buyout. Lee Corso's retiring. Week 1 of the season be his last college game day. They need to have it. It's probably at Ohio State, but he has picked Ohio State to win the most, so they need to close it. Week 1, Ohio State, Texas. It might already be written down, but I don't know. But that should happen, right? But shout out to Lee Corso, always bringing the entertainment on the Saturday morning for sure. And what else? Oh, NBA basketball song. If you like betting on games, bet online. The NBA is popping off. Our Lakers, they're down 0-1, but my Cavs, they're up 1-0. So if you want to place a bet, check in with Bet Online. They're there for you with everything you may need there. And baseball season's on the way as well. So hockey playoffs. Yeah, they got that too.
Hockey as well. Yep.
Yeah, and so that's our show for the week. Obviously, we end all our shows with a nice OH.
Ayo.
Go Bucks, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Go Bucks.